Welcome, and congratulations for making it through the traffic this morning. Well done. I believe it's very busy out there, which is a good sign. And maybe one day we'll be able to instantaneously connect the people that are a little late in their cars or their trains through Open Gateway and edge compute services to actually make sure that they can actually experience our summit this morning. My name is Henry Calvert. I'm Head of Networks at the GSMA, and I'll be your host and moderator for most of the sessions that we are going through. Thank you very much to our sponsors that are supporting us today. I just want to give you a little bit of an insight to the 5G futures community that we are talking about today and how it fits in to the overall technology picture at the GSMA. Back in 2020, we launched the 5G era, which is really the halo bracket to actually say 5G has emerged into and is the next generation of mobile infrastructure and technology that is going to be able to create value for the industry over the next 10 years. But underneath that, we started in the GSMA, we start to focus into vertical markets. As we know, 5G is enabling enterprises. So we want to be able to communicate to those vertical markets about the benefits you will see from 5G. And you can see the 4 vertical sectors that we focus on through the GSMA. Also, in every heartbeat of the GSMA, we focus on security, network security, end-to-end security, and we have many working groups that actually ensure that our networks are secure and protected for the future. And then we get to more of the horizontal technology layers that we are seeing. And we break this down into 5 areas. And we will talk about some of these areas today, particularly as 5G futures and cloud networks. As you can see, there are many topics that we need to discuss in the industry. But we actually have to focus to ensure that people understand the value and the benefits of various topics every year. The point I want to make is, when we talk to the verticals, we don't just talk about one single topic. We actually talk about the whole horizontal end-to-end communications network that mobile can enable. Next, I'd like to welcome our partners, WorldCloud and also UI Mobile. And before George Zhao comes up to talk, I think Neil Tompkinson is going to actually present first. Welcome, Neil.
I'm just going to run through what are we doing in UI Mobile and some of the initiatives there, and then George will continue to give you a bit more background around how it's been done. So just UI Mobile and what is the Malaysian landscape looking like. We're the 3rd largest operator in Malaysia. Around nearly 50 million total subscribers, or should I say SIMs, and around 40 in the main market. So the difference is sitting in MVNOs and other small initiatives, but we really look at what is the major telco market share. Around the big 3 is the 40 million. So what does it look like in terms of mix? Malaysia is actually quite strong on postpaid, and it's actually one of the growing bases in the market. Obviously, we're pushing a lot on the postpaid because the ARPU is double prepaid, but I think in the region this is probably the highest postpaid penetration. So quite a need for advanced services, willing to accept postpaid, willing to accept and demand converged services. So this is where we're driving the growth. Obviously, in the last few years, slight decline, but last year things have started turning around, so we're still driving forward. And as you say, you can see the market share or the overall growth was there, although with lower ARPU. So just when we look at what's actually happening and where can we get growth, as you'll see, there's a high demand for fixed line data services, and this is growing at double digits every year. So this we see as the opportunity as you move into 5G. What can we get in 5G? Because this is the fixed line operator. And then if you look at the enterprise revenue share, that's also growing. So these are the key areas that we're looking at to extract future growth. So just in terms of 5G, what have we started to do and how are we going to move it forward? So in Malaysia, there's actually one common 5G network rolled out by the government that all operators have access to. So we don't actually run the 5G network. So that's quite important. In other words, now there's network parity, but you've got to differentiate on services and what you can do on top. So it's not so much of a network play, it's a services and IT play. But what have we done to show some innovation? Of course, we've done all the use cases. We've launched our postpaid and prepaid plans. And we believe we've got some of the best postpaid plans in the market. Our top-end postpaid plan is 1 terabyte of data, free global roaming in 63 countries for equivalent of around $25 a month. So, and that's our top-end plan. So we're trying to drive people up to that top-end plan with a lot of traction because of the great value on that plan. But this is all a stepping stone for that, because on top of that we are doing the fixed broadband and the FWA. So for us, 5G is one stepping stone to enable the next level of ARPU. So, okay. So just to carry on with how we show innovation and what we're doing, the Chinese money packets, the ang pao, still is a lot of paper, but obviously that is now moving digital. So we took our paper-based ang pao and put a digital spin on top of it as part of our 5G/innovation drive. Okay, so just a little bit of fun, but the whole message is getting people to think innovation, 5G. So just another opportunity to put a technology spin on a traditional way of doing it. So just moving ahead, where do we see we're going to be moving to? So obviously we need to tap into 5G for our normal mobile services. And that's where we'll try and lift people up in terms of the packages, and we'll do the fixed wireless. And then we are moving into the digital services. We already do have a fintech business, and we're looking at how to evolve that even further. And then we are moving into the enterprise space. So as you saw, the enterprise space is growing. So we are moving into the enterprise space to start looking at mostly connectivity moving up into cloud solutions. So then with all of this in mind, how are we going to prepare for this? So we started back in 2019 with a transformation project to start on the BSS layer. And this is where we started with what we termed the Pixel project to totally transform the BSS layer. The major objectives was obviously improve time to market, omni-channel, cost to serve, become a digital partner. This is where we've got APIs opened up, operational excellence and revenue increasing. So revenue increasing, we want to be able to do a lot more upsell, cross-sell. So we've actually put in a platform with now more than 70 APIs that are used for our internal services, as well as exposed to third parties. Why did we do that? We don't want to have different services internally and externally. We do control what we expose, but essentially we can quickly expose any capability we've developed internally to a third party. Because what we do see is in the future it's about connecting to third parties. It's not just about running your own ecosystem. So we're making sure that we have a platform in place that we can quickly connect into the ecosystem. So at a conceptual level, how does this look? So we've obviously got our building foundation, as we called it, which was our digital CRM and our converged billing and charging, which is what we've just completed last year. And that is really the full Well Cloud stack: billing, charging, CRM, API gateway, implementing the TM Forum APIs. And now that we're looking at how do we move forward in the next step with exposing network services and exposing more services on the layer, on the digital layer. So we are looking at digital e-commerce and digital marketing. And we are obviously exposing some of the network services. That's where we're thinking about going. In terms of what does this all wrap up to in the longer term picture, is we are trying to be a digital player in the Malaysian market. So we are trying to move towards super app. I think we are trying to position ourselves in a more of a niche market because there are already quite established super apps in Malaysia. But the idea is we've got to have the platform, all the building blocks in place. So this is a journey we're on to enable the business to be ready for this. So I'll now hand over to George, who will just take you through how does this all happen.
Thank you, Dan. Actually, in the past 3 years, we've been through a successful journey together with U-Mobile team, transforming its legacy IT into an open digital architecture. Second thing is about 5G will enable more and more use cases, as we all know. And this variability definitely will increase the cost from the operational point of view. And certainly, we know there will be many use cases depending on the respective business strategies of telcos. Some telcos will choose to be a use case enabler. Some telcos will play as an integrated platform provider, or some others will be like ecosystem orchestrator. So all these kind of challenges will bring new requirements for telco IT. Actually, the topic is how we get telco IT ready for the 5G and the future networks. This is our topic. And for telco IT, I think number one is about velocity, the speed with the ready-to-use 5G features to quickly support 5G service and the 5G monetization. And number two is about openness, as we are talking today, the federated operator network with the open architecture and the open API to ease the third-party onboarding and in a multi-party environment. And number three is about continuous evolution, because we are thinking that 5G market dynamics is changing very fast. So compared with the out-of-box features, it is even more important for telco IT to support continuous evolution. Yeah. So, Well Cloud, we are a company dedicated in providing telco IT platform, the BSS, OSS, and the data analytics in the past 2 decades. And actually, we have been through many different types of transformation projects globally. So we are adopting the open platform approach to help our telco clients to quickly support their 5G business and monetize 5G business. And this open platform actually contains 4 layers of meaning. And first of all, it's about the open platform is based on the open cloud-native architecture, which can be deployed freely in different types of cloud environments. And secondly, with the capability decoupling layer, we have a bunch of APIs exposed through the API gateway. We have invested a lot in the open APIs. We are among one of the top leaders among the open API. This is for the third-party onboarding and third-party integration, and we believe it will be especially important in the 5G context. And except for the open API, we are opening more and more capabilities like our data entity, UI, UE widgets, workflow components. Telcos can leverage these widgets in Dev Studio, Open Dev Studio. They can use this Open Dev Studio to do some in-house applications, develop some innovative 5G use cases regarding the network slice. Like some telcos are using this to launch a network slice order capturing portal to support their network slice as a service model. And last but not least is about open platform to support ready-to-use business plugins. They can, based on open platform, to add business components in a plug-and-play model. And we adopt this open platform not just for enhancing the internal efficiency of telco, but to help telco to embrace the future business innovation. As we can see in this year's MWC, many telcos are talking about transformation from CSP to DSP, from telco to techco. China Mobile is saying they're trying to be, in the future, the ability as a service, while Rakuten and Ho2, they're saying the mobile as a service. And in our term, we believe in the future, telco will be a telco as a service. Yep. Telco can open and monetize all well-established capability. Not just the communication capability, but also the channel capability, the data and AI capability, network capability, and infrastructure and platform capability. So based upon our open platform, we have many digital solutions, and we are deploying these digital solutions in the global market with our telco clients to do such kind of a transformation from the traditional business model to a TaaS model, telco as a service model. For example, we are doing some eKYC projects with the telcos, and they can even use this eKYC capability to enable verticals. And also in Saudi Arabic and in some Asia Pacific country, we're helping telcos to monetize their cloud resources to build a local public cloud based on our stack. So this is basically what we're doing. Okay. Yeah, I think time is up. This is to sum up the session. Umobile, I think as Neil just mentioned, Umobile is one of the earliest service provider to launch the service in Malaysia market and to pave the way for its future business planning. We've done a successful project in terms of transforming this legacy IT into an open digital architecture. And yeah, that's it. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you very much, Neil and George, for the insights from Umobile and Whale Cloud. We move on to our panel discussion. So let me invite up to the stage Namal. This is going to be great for me, isn't it? Jaya Thakul Lake, who's the CTO of Axiata Digital. Welcome up. Dr. Ong Gok Chu, who's the CEO of Bridge Alliance. Welcome. Nathan Rader from Deutsche Telekom. Nicholas, the CEO of Unmanned Life, is unfortunately has had an acute illness. So luckily, we have Kim Clement, who is the CTO of Unmanned Life. And last but not least, Marcelo Zhou, who's the Chief Business Analyst at Whale Cloud. Morning, Marcelo. No, please sit here. But you may moderate if you like, sir, if you would. Well, thank you very much. So we've heard about we've heard about Open Gateway, we've heard about Kamara, we've heard about how edge resourcing and systems are coming together recently in the near future. So I wanted to start by asking a question around how cloud infrastructure is becoming, you know, that standard by which enterprises and consumer applications are being published and supported. And how does the panel see Edge actually benefiting developers now and in the future? So if I can start with you, Marcelo,
Okay.
that would be great in understanding.
Okay, I think from my opinion, Edge actually bring many benefits to developers. So first one, I think, is for innovation applications. So leveraging these edge computing technologies, the latency, the performance, the data residency in edge cloud. So developers actually can develop more applications like vehicle autonomous, immersive VR, AR, and this kind of cloud gaming applications. I think this is the first point. And next point, I think, is for handset performance. Averaging this edge computing can reduce the performance requirement on handset. That means a broadband, more customers can use that cheaper handset to enjoy more services. And last part, I think, is like for Edge, actually, as we are Alibaba cloud companies, we are also trying to bring this localized public cloud and edge node services to serve our global customers. Okay, yeah.
Thank you very much. And Kim, you know, as a developer yourself in Unmanned Life, and what Marcelo's just said, are you seeing the benefits of Edge?
Yeah, it resonates. Microphone working? Yeah.
Yeah.
It resonates for us, that's for sure. As a developer, we've seen, first of all, there's a bit of a challenge that we see today with the deployments we are doing. We are deploying robotics in general. So we have a lot of data that we are collecting from the robots that are in the field. We have camera data, sensor data, embedded sensor data, augmented sensors that we put on board to enable use cases, to extend the capabilities of these robots. And you have two ways of doing the computation. You can either do it on board of the device, but then these devices become either very expensive or they have to carry a heavy load. In case of drones, that's really a restriction we are dealing with. So our strategy is to offload that computational power. And there are options that we have over there. We could run on a dedicated infrastructure on premises, but then you bump into scalability issues. How do you deal with that scalability? And that's where edge computing comes to shine for us, where we are allowed to offload that computational power, offload the data, process it centralized, scalable, and then have it deployed in a decentralized way for the robots itself. So from a business point of view, it allows us to scale towards the future.
Thank you. Kamal, from a Axiata and operator's point of view, how do you see your Edge benefiting developers in your region, or even globally?
Yeah, if you take Edge individually, within one MNO, that can give you certain benefits, of course, with low latency applications and better queues handling and all these things, and some data privacy, and so data sovereignty related challenges, addressing these challenges. But the real benefit will come with some sort of federation, as well as the connectivity between these edges, where you can enable porting some of these applications from one edge to the other, where you give a cloud-like experience by connecting some of these edges. But since now most of developers are familiar with the public cloud, the edge experience will have to be enhanced. You will expect some cloud native like services at the edge, orchestration, maybe DevOps like functionalities and all these things, which is essential for developers to do their bit of work and deploy these services comfortably at the edge. So there's some advancement required, but definitely benefiting the wider developer community.
I really like the fact you were just talking about federating the edge. Dr. Chu, for Bridge Alliance, have you seen the benefits for developers on federation, and what work have you been doing in the Bridge Alliance around federation?
Right, thanks Henry. So for Bridge Alliance, as you know, we have 34 member operators across Asia, Middle East, and Africa. So the requirement that we see from developers, which is also highlighted by Nathan when you talk about Project Camara, is really to make things easy, right? So for developers, you don't want to go to every telco and have to figure out how to access their edge compute resources, not only technically, but also in terms of process, commercial, and so on and so forth. So Bridge Alliance actually came together to look at how we can have an orchestration layer, what we call Federated Edge Hub, which then simplify this whole process for developers. And through a single interface, they can discover, they can provision, and they can deploy the applications across different markets. So it enables multi-market usage of telco's edge compute resources. And it's very interesting because we started the journey back in 2020, and we have done many proof of concepts in terms of how the design architecture is to be. We have done a trial with game infrastructure developers where they deploy the game infrastructure across Singapore on Singtel's Mac, and in Korea, South Korea for SKT. Subsequent year, which is last year, we did a hub-to-hub integration with Telefónica to look at how we can then open this up, not only within Asia, but across the globe. And this year, actually, we did another live trial with Summitech, which is an immersive 360-degree of live streaming across Mac in Singapore with Singtel, and across to Thailand with AIS. So this is really how we are seeing the development. And again, in line with Project Camara, when we develop the whole federated edge hub, we leverage on the edge discovery API as well. So that's the whole movement of this industry is very encouraging. And Bridge is really trying to look at how we can simplify beyond the technical as well as commercial, and also the process with in mind how we can serve developer community much better.
Thank you very much. And Nathan, Deutsche Telekom has a number of operations around Europe and parts of the world. How important do you think it is to federate those edge, and what benefits does that actually bring the developer, as we've been discussing? But also, more importantly, do you think it's just going to be within the Deutsche Telekom family? Or does it need to be wider, and why?
It's got to be wider, right? I mean, yes, you know, I mean, as everyone can tell by my accent, I'm not German, you know, so as an American, I understand big country, big places, but when I'm, you know, working, living in Germany, you drive a few hours, you've crossed a border. So edge federation's absolutely important. You know, every one of these, you know, multinationals in Europe are in all of the EU in most cases. So we definitely have to think about federating edge. We have to make it available. And again, when it comes to, you know, maybe B2B, maybe in the Deutsche Telekom footprint, that's enough. But when it comes to B2C, consumers need, you know, they're everywhere, you know. If you're talking about cloud gaming or things, I mean, my kids don't care who's the operator is, you know, on the other side of the phone they're playing against. They just want to play. So absolutely, federation is absolutely important.
And Kim, are you excited as a developer to actually hear that everyone's actually trying to provide compute and store wherever you need it?
Very much. Like as a company and as a developer, in our stack especially, when you do robotics, there's so many technologies that come into place to enable the end-to-end solution. It's not only the robotic stacks, the software, the connectivity, the infrastructure. And for us, it's always a glass ceiling to push through. And there's some things that we can manage ourselves. It's our challenge and our glass ceiling to push through. But network and infrastructure, we cannot not do that by ourselves. We need to rely on an ecosystem. We need to rely on partnerships over there. And so far, we always have been pushing, and we work very closely together with a lot of telcos that I see on the slides today, but it remained challenging to do it with each telco partner individually. It always is a kind of journey and an effort to get it onboarded, which slows down the scalability again, the rollout of your solutions, while with this approach, by centralizing that, by collaborating that, by the open gateways, we will have the opportunity to scale much faster. I see when we enter the building's velocity, we will increase our velocity. So that's really what we need to aim for. So I'm very excited of seeing this happening. I'm very excited to be part of this. And I cannot wait to access the APIs, start using them, and start advising also to see where we in our use cases need to have more access or less access to these APIs, how we can leverage them. Yeah.
Thank you, Kim. Marcelo, to yourself, a cloud infrastructure provider. You know, all these benefits and the federation. How do you see that value coming through?
Yes, actually, I think I may talk about a case in China. You know, China actually built the largest 5G network, and also the data centers. I think the rank was second largest. So China right now, they have many data centers, but actually the usage rate is not quite high. It's some data centers less than 50% of utilization rate. So right now, China is trying to build consolidate all the data centers from hyperscalers, from CSPs, from different kind of entities, try to build a resource pool. Actually, this is a kind of federation concept actually working right now in China. And for ViaCloud side, actually, we are trying to build platforms that is bring inside computing network operating systems. Try to, in the southbound, we try to integrate different kind of resources. We integrate it with the cloud resources, the 5G slicing, the edge cloud resources as well, and also we onboard AI as a services to these platforms to facilitate the enterprises that can purchase one-stop offerings, combining all the edge resources, the data center resources, the AI capabilities, and they can easily support the vertical industries requirements. Okay, so I think this is what we have done in China. I think it's quite interesting. I think it's also similar like a federation can bring to tackle customers. Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Kamal, if we, we've now heard about the edge and the benefits that it's actually giving to developers, but there's probably a step of standardization of that, the cloud edges and the network and exposing network capabilities through open APIs. How important do you think standardization is?
This entire concept work on top of that standardization expectations, right? Because if you are to federate these APIs and use it at aggregator level or directly by the developers, you will have to standardize these APIs at the OpCo level or MNO level. And there are two sides. Network within the MNO, the interfaces are quite standard in most of the time. Whereas if you take OSS, BSS sides, some of them are not that standard. But exposure-wise, these OSS, BSS capabilities are more exposed than the network capabilities, right? So getting these, the balance between these two, right? Getting network exposed as standard as well as making OSS more standard will give you a proper standardized layer from OSS, BSS right down to the network layer, which will give you the full capability from handling the customers' products as well as the network capabilities like QoS or guaranteed bandwidth or quality on demand and all these things. So standardization end-to-end, that is from network to the OSS, BSS layer, will basically enable some of the concepts or some of the use cases we are talking here. So standardization all in all is very, very important. It's pivotal in this exercise.
And got Zhou for the Bridge Alliance. You gave us some beautiful use cases there before. Have you seen standardization help you deliver those case studies in a relatively short period of time?
Yep. I think standardization is almost a hygiene factor. But I would say that for telcos to really come together and make it work and remove the friction, right? So I wouldn't even use the word frictionless because I don't think it will happen. But I rather take the less and put in front and say less friction, right? So how do we make things happen to have less friction and make it easier for our customer, which the developers community, to access telcos API? Standardization is very basic. I will use ACE to summarize what we see, right? A, in terms of agility. As telcos, we are actually not very agile. Hopefully, we are improving much better now. And to be agile as in how do we see the needs of our customers and align ourselves internally to meet the needs of the customer, right? Today, if you look at the structure of telcos, you have the consumer team, you have the enterprise team, but who is handling developers? Right, we are very used to selling wholesale. So are we just focusing on selling wholesale to somebody else to aggregate and serve developers, or are the telcos thinking about doing otherwise? So agility is very important. C, as in commercial, right? Technically, it can be done. And it's not rocket science, I hope, right? But C, commercial as in how do we make the commercial work? And if the developers are consuming the APIs, depending on the use cases, your commercial has to make sense. If not, there'll be always other alternatives that can do it without using what the telcos have. And we have seen that happening, right? E, as in ecosystem. We always talk about ecosystem, but are we going deep or are we just saying it, right? Ecosystem, you know who are the players, but do you really know exactly what do they need and how do we work together? So to me, ACE, right, is a very good formula for us to look at how to make it successful.
Thank you, Kim. You were talking about robotics before. does, some people might just think that could be a closed system. How is standardization helping developers in robotics delivering new things and applications?
Yeah, I think looking at from a developer point of view, the standardization, I referred already to the velocity. Like when we work with telcos, we noticed that for them it's also an adaptation to work together with companies like us, startups that are growing, that are actually agile on our side, because we can, due to the nature of how our companies work in comparison to telcos. I do have to say that the collaborations with the telcos so far has always been pleasant, but the journey can be quite difficult because we speak different languages, and I think standardization helps a lot in that. What we did as a first reaction as a company was we have robotics engineers in the company, also from my background, I come from that angle, and then suddenly you're interfacing with telcos and you speak a different language. Yeah? Although you speak about the same topics, you want to solve the same problem, you're not communicating in the same language. So one of the first steps that we have taken internally in the company is also hire people with that expertise that came from a telco background, so that we could already talk the same language. That was already a game changer for us. So that is very important. But now we also have a bigger group of developers that is working on that, and their standardization and making sure that everybody speaks that same language and understands that will help us again to accelerate a lot.
Thank you very much, Kim. Nathan, I will spare you the standardization question, because it could be the same as Axiata.
Yep.
But let's think about how we expand the capabilities that we've got now. We've now got exposing network capabilities to hyperscalers, service aggregators, and developers directly, probably. How important do you think partnerships are of the cloud infrastructure providers to really enable the developers and understand the APIs that we're going to create?
Yeah, it's important, but I don't know if it's the first step. I mean, in the end, the developers, like Kim, has to find the APIs, find them useful. But then once they understand the APIs, most of this stuff needs to think about where is the back end sitting. As you said, it's, you've got some edge compute. Where is that edge compute? Where is it hosted? And then in that case, that's where the partners come on board, the hyperscalers, the others. So they wouldn't be the first place you want to look to. You want to look to the developers. They're going to drive the direction on where things go. But ultimately, they immediately bring in the cloud players as partners, because in the end, that's where their ecosystem is sitting, and we need to be working very closely with them to enable that ecosystem, to drive it forward, and to make it available. And ultimately, our general view, at least when we look at this from Deutsche Telekom, is that developers are not used to working with telcos. It's, as Kim said, we speak a completely different language. And when we look at how do we engage with developers, how does this industry engage with developers, we're looking to go where the developers are. And again, that's where Kamara went to open source, because the developers are in the open source community. They will never march in the door of any of these standards meetings where we are, talking about, standards, and it's like its own language there. So we go to where the developers are. They're in open source. They're in the major cloud providers, and we meet them where they're at and start working with them there.
Thank you, Nathan. Marcelo, to you, we've just heard the importance of partnerships with the cloud infrastructure providers. Do you see the collaboration across the cloud infrastructure providers, or do you see what the telco industry is doing here by exposing network capabilities and open APIs? Will that bring the collaboration across the cloud infrastructure players? How do you see that regime?
In China, we see that many CSPs are currently cooperating with hyperscalers. I mean, in some edge cloud computing scenarios, actually. So one thing I can mention is that last year, Alibaba Cloud and China Telecom, they are collaborating edge cloud scenarios, try to provide a basketball immersed broadcasting service to end users. So they're going to put cameras on site, and all the camera videos we're going to send to edge site. And by collaborating with the cloud edge resources from hyperscalers and the CSPs, they can extend the coverage. And then the customer can, in every corner of China, can enjoy the services through VR screen. So I think it's a very interesting story to tell. Yeah.
And Gochu, have you seen that across Southeast Asia? You know, the partnerships with the hyperscalers and the developers, and how have you enabled that in Bridge Alliance?
Right. I think across our member operators, there are many operators that are collaborating with the hyperscalers. And as part of the ecosystem, they are definitely a very important part of the whole ecosystem. We can definitely leverage on each other, right? And we do have different assets and different core strengths. So again, by coming together as a whole ecosystem, it makes sense to solve a very specific problem for the different industry. So that's happening, and we do see more collaborations with them as well. Right.
Thank you very much. And lastly, from each one of you, what is the first benefit of Open Gateway and the exposure of network capabilities and edge compute capabilities? Kamal, what's the first benefit that comes to your mind? Just straight off the top of the head, and I'll go along the row as well.
So the first benefit is the monetization, right? You need to monetize your assets. Now within Axiata, we have been doing this for some time with Open, exposing some of these basic capabilities to developers so that they can consume these things. But those are like add to bill or maybe getting the location, things like that. But here we are talking about a much more wider variety of things where you enable a lot of additional monetization capabilities and employee connect, and then catering the B2B market effectively with a lot of varieties of services available by bundling some of these APIs as well as the capabilities available with developer side to enrich them and then come up with a unique service to cater niche markets as well as a wider large enterprise user scenario. So monetization is one of the main things, I would say.
Gokchi?
Right. Actually, I see hope, right? So
Brilliant.
You see, telco industry have missed many boats, right, in the days. And the last time where we have made interoperability happen seamlessly across the globe is roaming. And then your messaging. So I see hope as in Open Gateway will actually enable seamless roaming of APIs across the world, regardless of which telco you are on. And if we can make that happen, monetization will happen, and we can then be able to effectively enable developers and our customers to consume the assets that we can power them, right? So I do see hope, and I hope my hope will come true.
Thank you. Nathan?
For me, it's scale. I mean, I think that the Open Gateway initiative has been fantastic. All you have to do is look around at all of the booths, and as I think was mentioned earlier, how many demos are being done showing the same set of APIs that are common to operators, and I don't think that we would have done that without the big push of the members, the founding members there, at least of the Open Gateway to really drive the scale, make it available, and even see common APIs, cross-operator demos and things. It's fantastic.
Kim?
Well, it depends. I'm wearing two hats in this topic. So if I really wear my technology hat at the moment, I would aim on the operational APIs for us, because it's about getting the technology out there. You cannot monetize it if it's not out there yet. So to be able to be scaling and to be deploying fast and reliable and secure, these are the first steps for me, which gets me excited. But of course, once that is out, you go into your business APIs, and then the monetization will kick in, and then my hat is shifting more to the business side of things. So I think these two will go hand in hand, but from a first point of view, it's having that onboarding seamlessly, scaling seamlessly. That is where I get excited as a technical person. And then the monetization will follow accordingly with the APIs that will be available for that. Yeah.
And finally, Marcelo.
Yes, I think actually for me, I'm also very excited actually. And also via cloud side, we are trying to give approach, like task approach, telco as a service approaches. That is, can monetize every APIs, network APIs, cloud APIs, or AI APIs. So that will help our CSPs to try to monetize the B2B market. I think CSPs will gain more momentum in revenue growth. Okay, so this is what's my opinion. Yeah.
Well, thank you very much, panelists. That's the end of this session. Thank you. Give them a warm welcome. Warm applause. Thank you very much.